thanks all for joining us. My name is Kevin Anyango, and I'm the founder of University School of Soft Skills. This platform mostly talk about those characteristics or behaviors that attract employers. And today I'm not alone. Today I'm the Don himself, Dr. Mark Awori. Doctor, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Kevin.
Well, and thanks for being here. Look, I'll go straight to the point. First of all, thank you so much for giving me your time. And so I understand that you're a Don at Nairobi University.
Yeah, so I have a dual role. By default, if you'd like, I'm a lecturer at the University of Nairobi, but primarily I'm a children's heart surgeon. And
right.
So part of my duties are to train the next generation of doctors and particularly surgeons.
Yes. I see. And where are you based, Dr. Awori? So you are based at Nairobi University?
Yes, so I'm based at Nairobi University, and then I practice surgery at two hospitals. There's a big public hospital in Nairobi called Kenyatta National Hospital, and I also practice privately at Gertrude's Children's Hospital.
I see. And so you being a lecturer to university, is it correct to say that nowadays universities are churning out graduates that are not really fully baked?
Well, there's a temptation to say that, but you have to ask yourself two things. Number one, what's the point of going to university? And then number two, what's fully baked? So, so these are things which people say very casually, and actually it's quite damaging. It's almost like, it's slander. It's like me hearing a rumor about somebody and then just repeating it. That's not good practice. You might be damaging a good name unnecessarily. So when we talk about fully baked, we need to define what we're talking about.
Right. So that's an interesting point, and I like that. Right. So when there is a research that has been done, and stats are out there, that when students leave university, they do not have what we refer to as soft skills, or those characters or characteristics that make them employable. As in, they are very much into academics, but when it comes to doing stuff on the ground, they struggle a bit.
Yeah, so I don't think the universities as a whole are to blame, because the whole point of university is traditionally has been to deal with academia. And academia, has two basic arms, science and the arts. And if I won't talk much about the arts because I'm not an artist in that respect, but as a scientist, it's a very standard way of doing things, and making people feel nice or talking with people and, blending in, influencing people is not part of it. There's a scientific method, and that's what people function or focus on. So by the time you're coming out into the real world, where the real world doesn't run on scientific method, it runs on interpersonal skills. So I think forever, not just now, people going to universities have come out and have had a rude shock in the real world. And I think that's why you have things traditionally like polytechnics and schools of various things. They realized there was a gap and found different ways to meet or to fill that gap.
So Dr. Awori, I'm going to quote P.L. Lumumba. I think you know very well. And he's been to this show, and he mentioned, and I can quote him, he says that, for example, you find engineer students graduating without even going to the field.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's easy to what's the word I'm looking for? It's easy just to shoot things down and say, look, our particularly in our part of the world, the quality of our education is bad. But you need to ask yourself this: would you let's use medicine as an example. Would you rather have a poorly trained doctor or no doctor at all?
They are both dangerous.
No. The reality is, let's use children as an example.
Yes.
The main things that kill children in our part of the world is pneumonia, malaria, and diarrhea and vomiting. So let me give you this example. If a mother brings a child in and you ask, Mama, what's the problem? And she tells you, mtoto ana joto kwa mwili. Then you ask, or that means the child is having fever. You ask, so is the baby coughing? And she says no. Is the baby diarrhea? And she says no. That's malaria. You just treat malaria. If she says it's fever and coughing, that's pneumonia. You treat pneumonia. If it's diarrhea and vomiting, that's self-explanatory. You've not been in medical school for more than 3 minutes now, and you can treat 75% of our children.
But there's a way. But there should be a way for a doctor knowing how to extract that information from the patient.
Yeah, I don't think that's too much of the problem. I think what we are dealing with is we have to ask ourselves, when people interact with each other, where do they learn that? Is it in university or at home?
That's a very good question. And
so we are starting and saying how bad the university is when really the problem is at home. So people are shooting down the traditional home, which is a father and a mother looking after children. And I'm not going to get into things of same-sex marriage and what have you. I'm just talking about a home where children learn to interact. They have good manners. They're caring for one another. They're told this is right, this is wrong. Now, when you miss that in early childhood because of the pressures of life and the different issues we have around the world, then you're ill-prepared when you come into the real world. And it's easy to say the problem is at high school or at university. The problem really is in the home. So what now the universities are having to do is play catch-up. We're realizing our people, when they go out into the real world, they have a problem. So we're trying to tailor the teaching and the training so that not only is it encompassing the hard skills of knowledge, of science, or whatever, but also how do you interact with people? How do you show somebody that you respect them? That kind of thing. But we are teaching them now.
Okay, so do you agree that, okay, listen, I'm a trained community developer, okay? And I do know that education starts from home. But
sorry,
also
I lost you there, Kelvin.
Hello, Doctor, are you there? Hello, can you hear me?
Just repeat that. Say that again.
Back. Thank you. Well, thanks, you're back. Well, for those that have just joined us, this is International University School of Soft Skills. Today, I'm talking to Dr. Mark Awori, who is based in Nairobi. So just back to you, Dr. Awori. As I was saying, well, I'm a trained community developer myself. And in my training, the very first thing I was told is that education learning begins at home. Okay, but also there's an important part that the schools play, especially now. We spend lots of time at school compared to home. That was pre-COVID. Okay, so you find students, mostly university, spend lots of time with academicians, people like you, with their peers at school. So that opportunity where kids might learn something from home, and when I say kids, I mean we're past 15, 16. Let's say 17 or 18, those have gone to university. So there's a pressure of passing exams. Okay, so there's periods of time at the libraries, in classes, to pass an exam. But that character, or what you call soft skills, they kind of lack. And that's why I'm asking you. So is the university not responsible for that?
Well, I mean, the reality is the university is a place where you learn various things. If you're a lawyer, you learn law, medicine, engineering, or whatever. So there's that component. But ideally, it should be a place of mentorship. So my students should actually see how I live my life. Not only should they learn surgery from me or medicine from me, but they should see how I deal with my patients. How do I deal with the guard on the corridor? How do I deal with the calls coming in at the wrong time?
Yes.
So I have to open my life out to them. They have to see what I do. And these are what I was telling you are the skills that people should learn at home. But unfortunately, it's not always possible. So there's no mystery. As I'm teaching them medicine, then I'm teaching them, they're seeing me, they see how I interact with people. And look, everybody knows when they've been treated well. No, and everybody knows when they've been mistreated. There's no mystery. When somebody's disrespected you, you know it. there's body language, there's all kinds of things. But I would say one of the first things that we need to learn is not to waste people's time. So you need to be punctual, okay?
Yes.
Yeah. So that's a big problem. Yeah, that's a big problem in our part of the world. But I mean, you know, there's culture. There's a very interesting book that talks about how, you know, there are spectrums of timekeeping. So in developed countries, particularly North America, you have to account for every minute. That's the culture. Whereas in Africa, and I'll be very naughty and I'll stretch it out. In Africa, we have two times, nighttime and daytime. And during daytime is for meeting people. In our culture as Africans, people are very important and you want to interact with them. And that's really almost the reason for being alive. And I don't think it's wrong. So what does that mean? That means you're going to work in the morning. You're meant to report at 8 a.m. You meet your colleague at the bus stop. He tells you there's a problem. His child is sick and he's going to the hospital. So then you abandon your work, going to work. Now you take him to hospital. And so you're being a very good person to your friend. That's our African inclination, but you've forgotten about your responsibility at work. So that's something we teach people at the university. What's your responsibility? What are your responsibilities? When you come to work, how are you meant to operate as a professional? How do you utilize time? I'll tell you this, there are simple tests I do for my students. If I find it's difficult to get you on the mobile phone, I know it's gonna be difficult working with you. I mean, why should you be difficult to reach? If I can't reach you on the phone, how will I reach you when I want to ask about a patient I'm taking care of? You see, so we teach them how you must be reachable on the phone if you're a professional. There are times to do this. So we teach them things like that, which are not related to medicine per se.
But I like that. Yeah. I like that. So carry on.
Yeah. So the soft skills that we really want to impart and we tell our students. Number one is be punctual. You can imagine for a doctor you need to be punctual, but everybody should be punctual. Number two, keep your word. If you say you're going to do something, then do it. You don't have to be a nice guy when you're doing it, but keep your word. So if you say, I'm going to call you back at a certain time, you call. And that's an area we are weak in, as Africans and Kenyans in particular. We'll say, we'll call you back, but we don't do it. So now what does that mean? The person who's waiting to be called back, they feel that person is unreliable. Now you can imagine if you are an engineer or somebody looking for a job, the person will say, I don't think I'll take that guy. And then you'll be complaining that life is difficult. You're not getting work. You see my point? So
yes.
Punctuality, keeping your word. These are very important soft skills. And then the third one is smiling. So most people have, you'll find them not smiling.
And who's supposed to teach this?
Yeah.
So they learn this stuff from school. Or
actually, you're meant to learn it from home. They say that by the time you're 3 or 4 years of age, you've already internalized all these skills and what have you. So you can imagine if you're not getting any of that and you're arriving at school 7 or 8 years of age, you've missed a lot. And in fact, that's often, you can imagine if you don't know how to interact with your teacher. Part of learning is interacting with your teacher in a way that your teacher feels they want to teach you more. If you don't know how to do that, you're already at a disadvantage. So we explain this to our students. Now they are adults, they are people who are in university, but we still have to show them that, look, you have to be able to draw information out of people, and you can't. Yeah, go ahead.
Now I'm just asking. So are you telling me your students? So let's talk about your students. Are you telling me that in your classes or those people interact with, they do respect this stuff you just mentioned? For example, punctuality, being able to smile, keeping your word. Are you telling me,
Yeah.
or are you telling us that you actually teach those in school as well, or in your class?
Yeah, we do. In fact, we mark it. My students, particularly the team who are training to be surgeons, we mark them for punctuality. We mark them for keeping their word. There's a whole way we do it. And if they fail that, then they don't move on to the next level. You get? So we've realized that there's this problem. So we are working on it. It's not easy because you need resources and what have you, but we are doing it. And I'm sure there are colleagues in engineering and in different places who are doing the same. So we should not confuse two things. There is the actual learning of your professional discipline. And for sure, as one of your guests said, certain disciplines like engineering perhaps need new technology and what have you. So it could be that those students are challenged in terms of the professional education. But the soft skills, there's no excuse for people not to be taught it at university. And the best way to do it is to show people, mentor them. Yes.
So do you disqualify the statement that most graduates are not fully baked?
Look, fully baked to me is, remember we said we're going to define fully baked. So a fully baked graduate, ideally, look, let's go way back. What is university for? Ideally, university is for training you to do something. And, you know, when you're being trained to do something, it is a mentorship. That's the way you do something. You first watch the master doing it. Then you assist the master doing it. Then the master assists you. And then the master watches you. Then you are now, technically, you are now competent. Now, in that journey I've just talked about, it has two parts. It has the hard skills. So if you're a surgeon, you must know how to operate, cut, and sew. But you must also have the soft skills. When you're talking to the nurse, you're asking, how is my patient doing? You're talking to the theater in charge. Have you got everything ready? If the power goes off in the middle of the operation, there's a way you talk to people so that it can come on quickly. So the person who's watching, the mentee, they learn that, okay? So fully baked means two components. You have got proper exposure to the hard aspect of your profession. And ideally, you should also have the soft skill component. Now, around the world, because of the way universities are structured, a lot of students around the world, even from the very best, even from Ivy League and the rest, they come out with a lacking in the soft skill component because the university is not geared to teach that. There's almost an assumption it was taught at home. Now, where I think most people are talking about not fully baked, they are imagining that a surgeon has never operated on any patient and then is given the degree of surgery or whatever. Now, that's not entirely true. Have you heard of the 80-20 rule?
No.
So the 80-20 rule is also called the Pareto principle, and it works quite nicely. What it says is that I'll use medicine just an example.
Yes.
If you think of all the diseases that could be there for a particular field of medicine, 80% of the work is probably as a result of 20% of the diseases. Did you get me? 80% of the doctor's work is probably as a result of 20% of the diseases. So most of the time, you can actually expose your students to those 20%. And when they go out into the community, they'll be able to handle 80% of the problems. I think that's pretty good. You can generalize that to engineering, to what have you. So we must be very careful about just carelessly talking about, negatively about things, particularly in our part of the world, Africa. We have challenges, yes, but we have to quantify those challenges, and then we have to decide how are we going to move forward. So soft skills, they are being taught, and that's a very personal thing. If you don't have the soft skills, how will you teach them?
Right. And Doctor, that is a problem. That's exactly the problem. If you do not have soft skills, how do you teach? So, as you say, you're a scientist, and scientists, they like facts and the numbers as well. And allow me to ask again. So you are telling us, or you're telling me right now, that soft skills are not the problem because people learn soft skills from home. That's not the problem. Why? We lack we lack qualified human resource.
Actually, I didn't say soft skills are not the problem. What I said is at the university, there are challenges in delivering the two components of being fully baked. There is the challenge of the hard skills in your field. Some are because of just equipment and what have you. And then there's the challenge of the soft skills because these are learned at home. And the reality is, in this modern age, the traditional home is under siege. So if you look at our own African setup, you'll find fathers have left the home to go to the city to work. Mom is at home with the child, and she's not only got the housework, she's looking after those children, and dad is sending money home. And then there's challenges. When dad is away from home, now he might find additional companionship wherever he is. Then the dynamics get very complicated. I'm just giving you an example.
Yes.
So in that kind of setup, you can imagine a child growing in that setup where he doesn't see where his father is. His mother is stressed, not giving him or her the support they need. It's very difficult for that person, even if they excel and grow, and become an established lawyer, for instance, or a doctor, you might find that their soft skills are lacking. So they may be very, and they may be able to treat the disease very well, but the experience the patient had would be maybe nasty. They're just grateful that they were treated.
Yes,
But they're not looking forward to meeting that doctor again because of how he handled them.
Yes.
So that is a problem in this day and age, more so than in the past and globally. Because you see, now we have social media, and people are missing that opportunity of learning how to interact with another person face to face.
Right. So for the sake of this discussion right now, and for us to move on, the problem is not the university.
I don't think so.
When it comes to soft skills, that is.
Yeah, when it comes to soft skills, the problem is not the university, because the university is not meant, it's not meant to teach people soft skills the way it's structured around the world.
Yes,
unless
you people though.
Sorry?
That's where you mold people at the university.
No. You mold people at home, not at the university. Yes, you mold people at home. That is why home is so important. And that is why we can't handle the home the way it's being handled. It's being handled like it's just any institution. But there's enough data, and I'm not in that field. I'm not a sociologist and the rest. But there's a lot of data that shows if a child is not handled properly in the first 3 to 5 years of life, they, inputted in social skills, in support and what have you, they're at a disadvantage when it comes to interacting in the marketplace.
Wow, that is interesting. Goodness me.
So what the university is doing, look, let me take you back a little bit. Yeah.
Please carry on.
Okay, so I was just going to say that, of course, if somebody is very deficient at the university level in whatever it is, some students are very, can I say that, particularly in the science disciplines, where your entry into university may not be because of your language skills. So let's say you're coming to do physics. You may not need to have got at the entry level a particularly good English grade. However, you'll be writing your dissertations and everything in English. So we do find students who are very gifted in the science behind medicine, but they are quite weak in the English. It's no fault of their own. So we don't abandon them, and neither do we kick them out, but at that level, we do our best to improve their English skills, because they're going to be a good doctor. And after all, when you're talking to your patient, maybe most of the time you speak in Kiswahili or whatever. So we don't abandon people. We try to help them wherever they are. And that applies to soft skills as well.
Yes, yes.
Okay?
Wow.
Yes, but I think, yeah.
Please carry on, please, carry on.
Yeah, but I think we need to know that soft skills should be taught at home, but because there are challenges now of people getting it at home, then it would be very nice to have, like what you're doing now, you're having essentially a school of soft skills. That's very important, so that guys or people who missed that opportunity through no fault of their own, their children usually, they can now catch up with these very important skills, because studies have shown really success in the real world is all about soft skills.
Yes, yes. Someone connects with people, isn't it? And it's knowing how to interact.
Yeah, well, no one is an island, and if you don't know how to interact with people, then how do you achieve anything? Because as one person, you can't achieve much. I mean, I am a surgeon. I operate on children, but if I don't have the rest of the team, I can't operate.
That's right.
So,
that's right.
Yeah, so I may have skills inherent in me. I may have trained in the best places in the world, but if I don't have the team, or if they don't want to work with me, then I can't achieve what I would like to achieve. So if we consider the soft skills, because we've talked about it, and I'm sure people want to hear about it, there's no magic to soft skills. Soft skills are simply keeping your word. People want to know you have integrity. So the way you keep your word is, in our modern age, is you keep time. Okay? Then you do what you say you'll do. If you're going to respond to an email, you do it. If you're going to call somebody, you do it. If you tell them, I'll call you back, you do it. Then you don't tell them lie, and you don't lie. There's a lot of lying in our culture. and I'm saying that, we're all part of it.
Yes.
So somebody will call you, you're late, they're saying, you're asking them where are they, then you say, Nico area, meaning I'm just in the area, I'm around here. And you're nowhere near there, you see? Those kind of things we need to get rid of. Right. Keep your word.
Right. And Dr. So this stuff you're telling me, about integrity, keeping your word, smiling, we both agree that they start from home. This is from the society itself.
Yeah.
So,
yes.
So where are we going wrong then? Okay, I know you mentioned the factors where, for example, father is going away to look for work, working in different area, mom and the kids are home, mom got other pressure for her as a mother. So how do we control this community? How do we tell them actually, guys, we're in trouble here?
So look, one of, I think, the biggest things afflicting modern society. So modern society now has a lot of good things going for it. Right now, if we consider the planet, it's the safest time ever in the history of human beings to live.
Yes.
Now this is, as a proportion of humanity, now it is the smallest proportion of people who are killed or who die by wars or who die in accidents. The planet has never been safer from a physical perspective. Children, this is the lowest number of children. This time is the lowest number of children who are dying under the age of 5. So, so there's lots to be said that are good about this day and age, but there are some things which are messing up the progress. Number one, anybody who would like to think about, we have brains, we have minds, and we can think. So you have to ask yourself, why are they male and female? And then what's the difference between a male and a female? What are the roles biologically? What are the roles, emotionally? They're not the same. Men and women are not the same. So I'm not now attacking anybody who is, for example, same-sex marriage or relationships or whatever. No, I'm not. All I'm saying is we must ask ourselves, if a child is going to be brought up in an environment that is different from maybe how they used to be brought up. So you have a father who tends to be harder. The male, we are more abrasive than females. We are firmer. That is the male nature. That's how males operate. Whether from humanity to animals, that tends to be the case. Women are softer. Even their bodies are softer. So you can imagine a child who, for example, is maybe being brought up by two fathers. I'm talking about what's happening in different parts of the world. You can imagine a child brought up by two fathers when he wants to cry in the soft arms of a soft mother, because touch is a very important sense in the developing child. In fact, if you withdraw touch early on in childhood development, it affects how human beings operate. So I'm not against anything, but we must ask ourselves as humans, why are things the way they are? And if we change them, will they have repercussions? So I've said that to say people want to alter the environment that children traditionally have been brought up in. And there are going to be repercussions, but no one is talking about that. And that to me is where we are going wrong. So it might be you're altering the environment for economic reasons. You find that the father wants to earn money, mama wants to earn money, so they leave their children with the grandparents. And you know that the dynamics between grandparents and kids is different in terms of discipline, in terms of that kind of thing, than parents. So all I'm saying is the traditional home is undergoing a lot of changes. And all I'm asking human beings to do is to ask ourselves, are these changes for the betterment of humanity or for the worse? And that's all. And then if they're for the worse, or if it's going to affect how we operate as humans to the detriment of humanity, why would we want to continue down that path? If it's going to make things better for humanity, then we go down that path. So what I'm saying in short is, things are made with a plan, okay? You don't take a four-wheel drive vehicle to the racing ring, the Nuremberg ring in Germany, and expect it to do well. Neither do you take a Formula One vehicle and take it to Masai Mara Game Reserve and expect not to get stuck. So when things are being made, there is an intelligent design behind things. So we as intelligent beings should ask ourselves, why are things like this? And we should not move until we get good answers that indicate that the movement or the direction we're going into is for our benefit. And that's what I'm getting at. We are not asking ourselves as humanity, we're not asking ourselves important questions of why am I doing this? The why question.
Yes. So at what level will we have the personal responsibility in respect to young people? So for instance, let's assume that you come from a broken home, where issue with integrity were always questioned, that was the environment. And you're past 18, 19, you're going to university, you're trying to create a career for yourself. Will this particular person always blame their community? Or at what level do we say, no, this is your responsibility, and you need, if you did not learn it in your community or your house, in your family, you've got to take personal responsibility.
Yeah, so look, the difference between a child and an adult, to me, is not so much the age. The difference between a child and an adult is, are you able to take responsibility? And usually an adult is able to take full responsibility for their life. A child, as they're growing, they're given graded responsibility. So the reality is, the age of 18, it might be in Kenya, the legal age of adulthood, but not everybody has developed to the point where they can actually take responsibility for their lives. So my point is this: when you're an adult, you need to take responsibility, and if it's brought to your attention that you are lacking or deficient in soft skills, then you have to find out where to get them. You read books, you join, you watch programs of what's happening here, and you get the skills. If you're a child, then what happens is there are adults around you, whether it's in school, university, or whatever. If they notice you're having a problem with the soft skills, it's their responsibility as an adult in your environment, even if you're not, if you're a teacher, you have some responsibility over that child. You then teach them so that they get these soft skills. So if they missed out early, they need to get them, and the sooner the better. Yeah. So wherever it is noticed that they are missing, whether it's primary school, high school, university, PhD, they need to get them. So yes.
Please carry on, please.
Yeah. So obviously, when you're an adult, the onus is on you. Yes, you have to go out as soon as you realize, and people will tell you, hey, you have this problem, you have that problem, you are difficult to deal with. I mean, you'll be asking yourself, why am I not being promoted? Why is this guy who came before me being promoted? Why am I not getting the good deals? If you're sensible, you'll be asking yourself those questions, and then you'll go and read. That's if you can read, you go and read. If you can't read, you go and watch about issues of getting deals, of succeeding, so that you educate yourself. That's, to me, what the adult does. For the children, the people around them, if they notice that there's a problem, deficiency, then they assist them. That's what I think responsible society should be doing. We should not say, that guy is not my son or whatever. No, that's a person who may interact with you. I mean, go ahead. Sorry, you're going to ask.
No, so I'll just get to ask, and let you finish. I'll just get to ask. So, is this the reason why, for instance, and I didn't want to touch the topic, but I'll mention it now. So, you find somebody come from a very good university, or went to a very good university, Ivy League, as you mentioned, or Cambridge, whatever it is, University of Nairobi, where they look at ethics, which is very important. When they get out of university and they become leaders, they kind of conform, or they're compromised. So that has nothing to do with where the training happened. It's about the society.
Yeah, I mean, the setup, particularly for us in Africa, we are very quick to blame our leaders. We say they're corrupt and what have you. And that might be the case, but you have to know the difficulties and the challenges they find themselves in. You can imagine if you're a naive. Have you ever asked yourself this question? Why? It's a common thing. It's elections. A leader is saying he's going to do A, B, C, D. I'm getting rid of corruption. I'm doing what? Then he gets in. You give him your vote. He gets in, and then down the line, usually 3 to 6 months down the line, people say he's a different man. What happened to him? Or she has changed. What has happened to her? Now, it may not be that she's changed, but let me give you an example. Let's say you are you're a politician, you're an activist politician, you want to change things, and because you've got that nature, you're probably also a business person, and you have some loans with the bank, and so you get into the office, political office, and you're disrupting the systems that have been there. And then somebody gives me, calls you and says, Mheshimiwa, this loan you have, it would not be good if we have to stop it. So if we have to do this and that. So now you're compromised, you see, and you didn't have that kind of challenge before. And so I think we need to be very, we should not be in a hurry to point fingers at people. I'm not condoning bad behavior, corrupt behavior, but we must, as I said earlier, understand, we must have the big picture. You've heard the story of the 5 blind men. Have you heard that story?
Yes,
who are touching an elephant? The guy who touches the side of the elephant says, no, this elephant feels like a wall.
Yes.
Somebody touches the leg, it's like a tree. The trunk, the guy who touches the trunk says it's like a snake. And it goes on and on. and they are arguing about what the elephant is. And that's because each is just seeing a part, a small part, or it's experiencing a small part. When really what we need to do is get perspective and see the whole thing, okay? So I think the problems you're seeing in the marketplace, in the political leadership, there's a myriad of problems that are leading to that. But the question we should be asking ourselves is, what can I do as one citizen? So you can keep your word and you can smile. When you do that, when you do that, you'll interact with many people and you will earn their trust. And so you'll be able to influence. You know, leadership, somebody once said that leadership is basically influence. So that's leadership. You cannot influence people genuinely if they don't trust you. And the only way they can trust you is if they interact with you. Now, if you have a stone face, even if you are somebody who keeps time and you keep your word, but no one wants to get near you because you look like the wall, you know, no emotion, then they won't experience your integrity. Right. And they'll not get to work with you. Yes. So those three things are, for me, are the foundation of interacting with people.
And they begin from home. They start learning from home.
Yeah, they begin from home. But if you're unfortunate, and we're not all fortunate to have had that kind of training from home or that experience from home, then you pick it wherever you find it.
Right. That's interesting. And I'm going to ask something direct to you, Dr. Awori. So you come across as very passionate in what you do, clearly. So where did this come from? The passion that you're oozing, is it an inborn thing, or do people train how to be passionate?
So look, you've asked a good question, and one of the things I believe is that anytime somebody has graciously, has donated part of their time to listen to you, like so here, you're listening to me, and maybe there'll be viewers who listen, it would be very dishonorable of me not to give them my best, because time is the most precious commodity. So I'm going to give you my best. And what my best is that, look, when I was in medical school, that's my first year of medical school, I was, in medical school, you dissect the human body, right? So you've got cadavers and you dissect, so you see the anatomy, and that's how you learn. And I remember dissecting the knee joint. And when I opened the knee joint, what I saw was an amazing design. I saw two ligaments, which are in a cross, they're in a formation of a cross, and they hold that knee joint together, give it mobility, and it can move. And I thought to myself, there is no way this happened by evolution. This could not have happened by accident. To me, I thought, look, somebody designed this. That's just me looking at it. There's some things and you just think, my goodness, no. This was designed. So I went on a quest, and I actually think human beings have been designed. When you look at, and I hope you don't mind, I'm going to go on a slightly religious tangent, but it's slightly different.
Oh, please, carry on.
So when you ask most people, particularly of the Christian religion, if you ask them why God made humanity, they'll give you a very religious answer, so that we can worship God and what have you. I didn't buy that kind of thinking. That's a pretty selfish God. If he makes me so that I can spend all my time worshiping him, and I didn't think I wanted to interact with a selfish God. It wasn't long before, when I was reading the Bible, I came across a scripture in 1 Corinthians chapter 13. It said, it described what love is. It says, love is kind, love is patient, love is not selfish. And then later, I came across another scripture in the book of 1 John, which says God is love. So I added these two things together, and it says God is not selfish. So, I mean, if God is love and love is not selfish, God is not selfish. So that changed how I see God. He's not somebody who thinks about himself. He actually thinks about others. Now, if you're a God all by yourself in the universe and you are love, you want to think about people, what's the natural thing to do? It's to make people. So that was the motive that God making humanity. He wanted to share everything he has with humanity. So he wants to share even rulership. Now, let me ask you a question. Have you ever seen a place where there are two kings ruling at once? Have you ever seen that?
No, not yet, at least.
Not yet. Or two queens. Have you seen two queens ruling at once?
Not yet, no.
And you know why that is? Because the very concept of being a king or a queen or a ruler is that you are in charge. You can't be sharing that. The minute you share it with somebody, you're no longer in charge. So here is God. He's the king of the universe, and he wants to share this with people. So you know what he did? He created a realm where he was not. Have you ever wondered why, if God loves us so much, why can't I see him? Where is he?
Yes.
If he loves me, I mean, my wife, I've been married to my wife for 22 years, and one of the things that's important to me is that she's with me. If I don't see her for a day, I'm missing her. So here is a God who loves me. Where is he? I can't see him. It was very intentional. He created the physical realm, and he did it in such a way that he should not be there. So the Bible makes it very clear. The physical realm is a realm where human beings are meant to function. And the whole idea was, and if you read the Bible in more detail, it says that God is a spirit and we were created to be like God. So we are actually spirit beings. We are not physical. But to function in this realm, we were put in a physical body, like an earth suit, so that you can manipulate the physical realm. That's very intentional. Okay? Now, the minute you're put in a physical body, you're limited in time and space. You can't be everywhere. Okay? So God, what he did was he created the planet Earth and the whole physical universe, and he put human beings on that planet Earth, and he wants us to rule this planet competently. He basically wants all the resources on this planet to be ruled in a competent, just, and fair way. That's why there is what they used to call the Lord's Prayer. Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. God's intention was for us human beings to rule this planet so competently, it's like heaven on earth. Doesn't that sound exciting?
I've never ever heard of that analogy, which is quite interesting. And I wanted to ask you, well, you are saying that God is not, he's not selfish, right? So the issue of why he threw away Satan from heaven to earth, how do you see that then? I know we're deviating now, but you've mentioned it. I want to ask you.
So say that again. I didn't get that. So it broke up.
Right. So I was saying that you're talking about God is love and God is not selfish. And you mentioned about you cannot have two kings or two queens. So why, if God is not selfish, then why did he throw away Satan from heaven to earth? I know we are debating, but this is a mention.
Yeah, so that's a good question. So look, the way to think about it, and the Bible talks about there being two kingdoms, right? There's the kingdom of God or the kingdom of light, and there's the kingdom of darkness. Now, have you ever wondered why there are many countries? There's the United States, Kenya. Have you ever wondered where that came from?
Not really. Sorry, just a minute. This is live show. Some things you cannot avoid.
Okay, fine.
I'm sorry about that. Again, this is live thing. We can't control them.
Yeah, that's okay. So I was asking, have you ever wondered why we have countries, we have national anthems, and why we feel so proud when Kenyans are winning on the track? Have you ever wondered about that?
Not really, to be honest with you.
Yeah, so where do we get that? We get that from God. We get that. It's hardwired into us. We know that there should be a kingdom. We know it should be ruled well. Everything about us is just like God. We like to have our space. Why are people working so hard to get their own house? And why do people say they want their house like this? And when you're in a difficult neighborhood, why do you put a wall? You know, we love control, and we get that from God. Let me ask you, what do you think? Why do you get annoyed in a traffic jam? Have you ever asked yourself that question?
Yes, all the time, actually.
Well, you get annoyed because suddenly you don't have control.
Yes.
That's what frustrates people. Suddenly they lose control. So human beings love controlling things. So you had asked about, Satan being thrown down, to earth. Well, I think the key thing is here. What happens when you break the rules of a country? If you break Kenyan law, what happens, or what should happen?
Well, you go to jail, isn't it?
Yeah, you should go. Have you ever wondered why you go to jail?
Well, it should be a place where you're kind of not rectified, but you're being molded back to a proper citizen.
Actually, the main reason for going to jail is to keep you away from the rest of the people, because you're a destructive influence. That's the whole point. Now we try to then, we add the next level of, we will now reform you and put you back into the society, and that's good and that's fine. But the main thing is to get you away from the rest of the people, because you're lowering the quality of life. If you are a murderer, you're killing people. If you're a rapist, you're raping them. So that's the thinking behind it. You might even want to say you're even punishing the person for what they did. But where do we get that from?
Well, other religions may look at differently, Dr. Awori.
Well, if you look at most of the countries you and I would like to go to, in inverted commas, that's how they function. or just think of any orderly country and any orderly religion, whether it's Christianity, Islam, or whatever. When you do something wrong in society, even in our African religions of past, you're removed from that society. Why? So that you don't reduce the quality of life in that place. And we get that from God. So God has a kingdom, and he has a set of rules. And if you can't obey those rules, then he has to kick you out of his kingdom as a good king, as a responsible king. Why would he want to keep troublemakers in his kingdom? Now, there's only one very important thing here, and I think this is the game changer. This is the game changer. If you look at the rules of the kingdom of God, the Christian kingdom of God, they're impossible to keep. They're just impossible. You can't steal from anybody at any time. You can't think bad thoughts about somebody. It's impossible to keep those rules. However, God says that if you break even one of those, I have no choice but to throw you out of the kingdom. Because if I keep you in the kingdom, you'll be problematic.
Yes.
So what God did, it's very interesting, and it's only in the Christian religion, and this is to me the game changer. God said, I will obey those rules for you. And then I'll give that obedience as a gift to you. So you're not trying to obey the rules anymore. It's a gift. You can just receive that obedience, so that when I look at you, I say, Kelvin, if you've received that gift, you're as good as having obeyed. Now, with that, you have a passport to be in the kingdom. Now, God then takes your disobedience and suffers the consequences of being kicked out of the kingdom. That's what God did when he came as Jesus Christ. Now, you asked me where my passion comes from.
Indeed, yes.
I'm convinced, I'm totally convinced that I have access to God and his resources to make this world a better place for people. The role I play is as a doctor. The gifts I have, I operate on children. That's what I bring to the table. So if children are not well, they have heart disease, I operate and fix that. That's the gift I bring to the table. Somebody else will bring a different gift. Together, when we bring all our gifts to the table, this planet becomes a better place. And it's happening. If you read a book called Factfulness, it's not a religious book. It's a wonderful book. You should read it. It was written.
Thankfulness, is that called?
Factfulness. It's called Factfulness. It was written by a doctor called Hans Rosling. And he's been advisor to the UN and to various groups. And if you look at what he says in that book, and it's verifiable, the data is verifiable, this planet is becoming a better place. I mean, it's better living now than 50 years ago. So it's all, again, what I was saying, you have to have the proper perspective of this life. And when you have a proper perspective, when you understand what the purpose of life is all about, and when you understand the rules of the game, you'll play the game better and enjoy the game. That's why I look positive and I'm enjoying life. Are you getting my point?
Yes, yes. Interesting. Listen, again, I say, I know, the time is precious here. Allow me to go back a bit. And you talked about mentorship, for instance, and you talk about your students. So don't you think mentorship is overrated?
No, I think without mentorship, there's no life.
But where do we find people like you, though?
Well, you don't have to meet me in person. You can read books about me, and that's something. I've written books which people can access from around the world. I have one book, it's called I Am the Meaning of Life. We talk about this in detail. And you can get that on Amazon. So you can mentor people to different degrees in different ways. The ideal is face-to-face when people are living in each other's spaces. Like you meet your boss, you go to his house for dinner, and you see them, how he works, you see how he handles his wife. That's the ideal. But if you can't have that, then you watch something on YouTube. If you don't have that, you read a book. So there's no excuse not to be mentored. And that's the only...
So again, we're going back to that personal responsibility, isn't it? That personal commitment.
How else are you going to learn? You can either learn the hard way. Why do you want to make all the mistakes that somebody else has made? Mentoring is all about minimizing the hurt and pain you need to go through, because there are two ways of learning. One way of learning is to be taught by someone else who has been through it and tells you, don't go here, don't do that, so you don't get into trouble. The other is to just do it yourself, self-taught, the school of hard knocks. And you learn, yes. But why do you want it to make it more painful than it needs to be?
Yes.
It doesn't make sense. Yeah.
Oh, that's beautiful.
So you need mentors.
That's the way I like that. Why do you have to go through a pain that someone else have already gone through that route? That's very, very clear. So, Dr. when people say that hakuna kazi, they cannot get employment. So is that their fault as well?
So the reality is, the way you've asked a very interesting question. The way the current world system works is not sustainable. It is a model that really, we are still living an industrial age model. I know we like to pride ourselves and say we are in the information age and what have you. And yes, there are components of us who are in the information. As a branch, you sit benches facing the teacher. That's industrial age. And the aim of industrial age was to make everybody uniform so that you can go and do uniform work in the factories. And that's why no one enjoys school, because that's not how human beings are meant to operate. So if our main education way is industrial, what about our workplaces? They're still industrial. You have to get up at 8, go to a workplace, be there till 5, sign in, sign out, come. That's industrial age. Go to the factory, you do repetitive work, then you come out. No, that's not how we are meant to operate. We were meant to be creative. You're meant to be planning your day. And if anything, what COVID has taught us is you can be very productive from your home. You don't have to go into the workplace. So I think if somebody says that they don't have work, it all depends on what stage of development got any skill. He's not been to school. It may not be their fault, but they may have been destined, let's say, to be an engineer or a doctor. But if they didn't get the chance to go to school, then they can't start at being a doctor. They have to start somewhere. So you can start as, cleaning houses, cleaning the toilet, whatever. But then you should be moving forward. How many guards have you seen when they're guarding? Do you see them? Do they have any books with them that they could be reading?
No, sorry. My guard is going to switch off. So I'm just going to change the position and put in the plug. It's okay. So just
right.
That. There you go. Sorry about this. I just did plan this very well.
Just to let you know, I'll have to be winding up soon.
Right.
I've planned.
Indeed, yes. There you go. Right, you're fine. Sorry about that. So you are talking about people that don't have work, or those that are saying hakuna kazi. So
yeah,
you mentioned about not going to school. Carry on.
So look, I mean, if you go back to what I was telling you about how this planet has been planned, everybody has a gift that they bring to the table. And before you say there's no work, you have to be able to identify what your gift is, okay? Because you use that gift to do something, okay? And that something usually solves a problem for another person, okay? So that's when you hear people talking about what's your purpose in life, you need to identify that. So this is what I normally tell guys, and it's not something I've developed. I think I read it from another person years ago, and it's been very helpful. You need to ask yourself some questions. You need to tell yourself some stories. This is very important for people who are looking for work. You need to tell about 10 stories about your life. Think back to your earliest memory. Maybe the most coherent memories are when you're about 7 years of age. Yeah, you may have some earlier, but around 7, they are coherent. Think of something you did at the end of which you were very pleased with yourself. It must be something you did and made you were very proud of yourself at the end of it. Tell that story to yourself about what you did. Tell it in enough detail that if you are talking, it would be 10 minutes. Write it in a journal. Repeat that process for 10 different events in your life from when you were 7 to where you are now. Things you did which made you feel very proud. For example, when I was 7, my dad had a broken watch and I wanted to use it. He said, it's not working. So I said, I'll fix it. So I went and watched a watchmaker, how he fixed it, how he opened it. It's those old manual watches. I cleaned it with paraffin, got the watch working, and I'm a 7-year-old, and I was very pleased. So that's one story. When I was a bit older, I used to like these radio-controlled cars, and not the ones you just go and pick, not the ones you pick and just buy in the shop and start using. They come in a box, they're in pieces, and you have to make them. And they have real components, shock absorbers, and it takes a while. So I remember after a while, I made that, and I was very pleased with myself. Then I noted a friend of mine, he had a 4-wheel drive one that was faster than mine, and I wasn't happy. So I went and read about how you improve an electric motor and make it run faster, increase the voltage of the batteries and all that. And I was able to now compete with him, and I was very happy. I'm telling stories about myself. Then you ask yourself certain questions. You ask yourself, who were you with? What were you doing? Where were you doing it? When were you doing it? What role were you playing? Now, out of those 10 stories, maybe 4 or 5 of them, you will be able to find a pattern. So when I tell my 10 stories, the pattern I find is that what I do is I research things, then I fix them. I research things, then I fix them. And I tend to work with my hands. I tend to work with few people, not big groups. And I do it on my own time. I'm not told what to do. I choose the time. Okay? Now that is what I bring to the table. Right? I bring to the table research and fixing broken things. Now you ask yourself the final question, why were you happy at the end of what you did? And for me, when I ask those questions, I fixed something. Something was broken, now it's fixed. That's your purpose in life. So my purpose in life is to fix things, okay? If I left it at that, I could have been a mechanic, I could have been a plumber, I could have fixed companies that are broken. I could have been a corporate fixer. Yes. I don't want to say it in public, but you know, you could also be an assassin. That's a fix-it man is also an.
Yes, yes.
But are you seeing how? So
yes.
My purpose was fixing things. Okay. You need to take it a step further. You now need to be assigned. Okay. So let me give an example. A car has the gifts that a car has. It has wheels, it has an engine, it has a windscreen, it has seats. Okay, that's what it brings to the table. And what's its purpose? To transport people. But if I left it at that, it could transport Kelvin from wherever you are to another place, then it could take Mark to another place, it could do anything. But I'm going to assign it. I'll say this car must take Kelvin to work in the morning and bring him in the evening. So it will not be assigned to Mark. It will be assigned to Kelvin. So we human beings are like that. We are assigned to a specific person or group of people to solve a problem for them. And how do you find out who you're assigned to? You ask yourself 3 questions. 1, what makes you angry when you see these people in that situation? Number 2, what makes you feel like crying when you see people in this situation? And then number 3, what are you interested in that when you're doing it, you don't even want to eat, you can even forget time. So let me illustrate. When I see people sick, I really feel bad. When I see sick children, honestly, I feel like crying. And then when I see them not treated well, they're not getting treatment, I get angry and I think somebody should do something about it. That question of somebody should do something about it is guiding you. It's telling you you should be part of the solution. All right?
Yes.
Now, what interests me? Out of everything, the human heart, the physical heart, I'm a heart surgeon, the physical heart interests me. I remember on TV when I was about 5, I was watching open heart surgery on a program called Living Tomorrow. And I still remember it. And when the heart was beating, everything else in the room disappeared. I was there. So let's bring it all together. So I fix things. I use my hands to fix things. I get angry when somebody is sick. I feel bad when children are sick, and I'm interested in the heart. I could only be a children's heart surgeon, my brother. I couldn't be anything else. So your assignment fixes where you're meant to be. So those are the questions people need to ask themselves. And you don't get the answers overnight. It takes a while. Yeah. So you have to ask yourself, what gift do you bring to the table? What's your purpose? And then who are you assigned to? Then now you can look at the marketplace and say, this is where I fit in. When I did all that, then I could look at the marketplace and say, children's heart surgeon fits the bill. So that's what people need to do. And of course, if you do that, you'll be an innovator, because if you look at the marketplace and you don't see the job, it's you to create it now. Are you with me?
Yes, I am. Listen, I can stay here the whole evening just to listen to you. Just last part of this, actually, we're finishing this 5 minutes. When I was introduced to you, and I can't remember the words, I was told that, so you're a heart surgeon, among what, 5 or 10 people that actually have studies in Kenya.
Yeah, so we're not many. Now we must be maybe 12 or 13. But we are serving 50 million people. So, you know, we need to be 200, not 15, you see. So, but because I asked myself those questions, I was able to be assigned in the right place. So now, if somebody tells me go and run for politics, I say no thanks. If somebody tells me go and be a big businessman, no thanks, because it's not me. And I'm not confused, because you'll have situations where somebody is meant to be a nursery school teacher, and then suddenly they've been told now go and they become a professor of economics somewhere, when they should have been a nursery school teacher. That's what they bring to the table. Yeah, and they'll not be happy.
That's right. Honestly, I wish you were telling me now. I was so like 10 years ago. Maybe I would be something else. I don't know. And so
it's never too late. It's never too late. It's never too late to change.
Really? I will think about that. Listen, I cannot thank you enough, Dr. Awori. For those that are listening to us, this is Mtandao Varsity School of Soft Skills. And today I was talking to Dr. Awori, a heart surgeon based in Nairobi, Kenya. Look, Awori, all my guests that I have, I'm never introduced to them. So I'm going to ask you, who do you introduce me next time?
Sorry, say that again. I didn't hear.
So each and every guest that comes to Mtandao Varsity, when they finish, they normally promise to introduce me to someone else. So for example, you came here because of Lawrence Gidinji, who I assume is your friend. So I'm asking you, can you introduce someone else to come to the show?
Will you allow me to think about it?
Why? Why would you commit?
Yeah, no. These, I don't believe these opportunities to talk are small opportunities. I mean, if it's going on the internet, the reach is wide. And so you have to think about who you are referring to.
Yeah,
so
right.
We'll talk about that, and when the right person comes to my mind, I will definitely let you know, and then you can have your next session.
Marvelous. Well, again, I cannot thank enough, Dr. Awori. I really appreciate it. And what I was told about you is exactly who you are. And I've got to tell the viewers that we've never met, but I spoke to you, and you said yes, you're here on time. So. Again, those that listen, integrity is very important. Keep your time, keep your word. Dr. Awori, thank you very, very much for your time. And do have a nice day.
Thank you for having me, and keep up the good work.
Oh, thank you, Dr. Awori. Have a nice day. Thank you very much.
You too. Bye-bye.